Hey YouTube, it is Gunpla Creativity here, bringing back another video. So today's video, I'm going to be going over your essential tools you need when you're building Gunpla, and it's going to kick off a new series that I'm starting that I'm calling Classroom 101. So the series is going to consist of me starting off with tools, and then I'm going to show you how to build your first Gunpla, and then gradually go to customizing a Gunpla, airbrushing one, and then also building a diorama in the series. So I do hope you enjoy, and without further ado, let's get started. Alrighty guys, so first things first, the most important things is your nippers. So these are what you're going to use to cut the runners. So there's actually two different types, and real quickly I just drew a little drawing so I can kind of explain it better. So one of the brands, which is probably one of the top brands for the nippers, are called God Hands, and then there's regular kind. But God Hands aren't the only ones that make this type, it's just for the example. So the first type is they're like normal side cutters, so both sides are gonna have the blade that is gonna cut it, so it's pretty much just gonna pinch it to cut off the plastic piece that for the runner. While on like the gut hands, one side's gonna be completely flush, so like just like a flat piece, and the one side's gonna have the blade, so it's one more smooth cut. So there is like a downfall with the regular kind, which is that you can actually kind of put stress on the runner, and you can kind of leave like a little, if it's like a lighter color, you can leave like white when it on the plastic itself, or you can leave cut off a little bit more, or leave more plastic from the runner, while the flush ones are one more smooth cut. So that's pretty much just the main difference between the runners, and they can vary in price. Like I think these I bought for about $5-6 at my local Hobby Lobby, while these I bought like at Hobby Town. I believe these three are from Hobby Town, but like I said, that's one of the top brands. If you ever look, they're called God Hands, and these were about 35 bucks. So they can get pretty expensive, but not necessarily needed, because you can always just sand down and make it smooth. The only thing these honestly really do help is it takes less time. It's like I said, a lot more flush, even cut, and it does less stress on the plastic. Alright, secondly, the next thing you're going to want to get yourself is sanding paper. So, of course, there's all kinds of, you can get regular sandpaper, you can get something like this, just with like a little piece of sandpaper that can attach to it, or you can get sand sponges. There's all these things called sand sponges, and there's also sanding sticks. So, like, here is a little sand sponge. So what you pretty much are going to use these for is when you're cutting the plastic from the runners on the parts, you're going to leave a little bit of plastic sometimes, or sometimes they're not flush. So you can just go from different grades and kind of smooth it down. So I like to go from about 600 grit to 800 to 1000, and then I do use a finer one just to kind of like polish it up, so I use a 2000. So all you really use these for is, just like I said, you're just going to want to smooth it out. Like I said, the nippers that are more like the God Hands, it leaves less, so you don't have to sand much, and the other ones tend to leave a little bit more, but it's just a little extra sanding, no harm. But this is the second thing that I do recommend you get, and I will leave links in the description for where I bought these from. And you can also buy some just from your local hobby store. You can buy them from hardware store. Really, just any kind of sanding paper would do. Alrighty, so next up on the list is going to be a hobby knife or X-Acto knife, whichever you kind of heard the term as. So reason that you can use these is also, so let's say you leave a little bit of the plastic on the runner from the part, you can kind of get this and you can just cut it a little bit to smooth it out. I also use this for when I'm getting decals or water stickers or any of the things to help place them on the gunpla. The other thing you can also use is a pair of tweezers. These help. You can pick up the sticker and you can place it on the gunpla. So if it's a little hard to get to with your hand, you can just get it and you can place it real easy on the gunpla, which helps. So these are some of the other tools that I do recommend you getting. Like, X-Acto knives aren't super duper expensive, and you probably have a pair of old tweezers laying around that you can use. I think I bought this for a couple of dollars at my local hobby store. You can get all kinds with like, a plastic more firm grip. But yeah, that's just another thing that I do recommend that to have when you're building gunpla. Alrighty guys, so another thing I do recommend buying is called panel line accent colors. These are made by Tamiya, and you can buy these you can order them from Amazon, you can order them from your local hobby stores, you can buy them there. I bought mine from my local Hobby Town or Hobby Lobby as well. And you can use, what I do recommend buying this with is an enamel remover to help kind of clean it, and also Q-tips. So what you use this for, and I kind of recommend it, not necessarily early on, but if you pretty much want to start customizing right away, this is one of the easiest things to do when you customize. They also sell another thing which is called a Gundam marker, which is pretty much the same thing as this. I can't find mine on hand, otherwise I would show you. So pretty much what this is it's a little brush like this, and it's with a little bit of black paint. And what you do is, with the little lines, which I call the panel lines, if you can kind of see them, you just dab it in there, and then it fills it up with the black paint, and it just kind of helps your Gunpla stand out more and kind of make it pop. So if that's just something you want to do early on, and just to really kind of start customizing early on without doing too much, that is what I highly recommend. And they're not necessarily too expensive. Like I said, this hobby isn't too expensive if you really just like wanting to build the high grade gunpla and such. But if we really start getting into it, then it can be a little expensive. But I don't want to scare anybody away, because this really truly is a fun hobby. Okay, so here is another kind of, not necessarily a tool, but just something I recommend when you're building gunpla. Not everybody uses them, so really it's just personal preference. But I just kind of do recommend using, getting some kind of gloves of some sort when you're building gunpla. Like I said, it's just a personal preference of mine, because you're gonna be sanding a lot, and I just really don't like the sanding dust all over my fingers and stuff, especially when I have cuts and everything. So I just do get myself some gloves. You can buy them from your local hardware store, hobby store, anywhere really. Just some latex gloves of any kind. Just like I said, really just when I sand, or when if you do plan to start, like, doing panel lining and such, you don't want to get that paint or anything on your fingers, so I do use gloves for that, just to kind of protect it. Alrighty guys, so another thing, and not necessarily that I recommend, it's just like I said, these are all kind of personal preferences at this point, but I do use a mask as well, especially when I'm sanding, because when you're sanding, a lot of the plastic particles come up and you can inhale that. I don't necessarily know if the plastic is toxic of any sorts, but I just really don't want to keep breathing that into my lungs, especially because I sand quite a bit. So I do recommend a mask if you do plan to do that, or even if you do some kind of paint with like that panel lining, because it can be strong and you just don't want to get a headache. So really just, I do kind of recommend one of these, but you don't necessarily have to use it. You can use these types of masks, or if I'm sure a lot of people just from COVID, you had your COVID mask just to cover your face. If you want to just pull it out and start using it, really that's all I use it for. But like I said, it's just a personal preference. Alrighty guys, so another thing, a tool that I do recommend y'all getting, especially if you do plan to honestly customize your gunpla, you might as well start getting it early on, is a scriber. So a scriber has these little, like, thin little chisel pieces that you can use. And what it is so on a Gundam, you can see that they have these little indentions all right here, like, they have the little marks for the plastic. And pretty much what the scriber does is you can get in there and you can kind of groove it a little bit more to make it a little bit deeper, kind of make it a little more realistic. And you can use it when you're customizing gunpla to add more lines to it as well. And it just really helps when you're wanting to customize. I really do enjoy it. So another thing that goes along with scribing is you want to get scribing tape. So this is like a hard, thin piece of tape. It's a little vinyl. It's hard edge tape, as you can see in the description. Sorry. And what you do is you run it across your Gundam, and with the scriber you'll go along the tape with the lining, so it helps to keep it straight. And I will make another video later on in the Gunpla series of Class 101 about how to scribe when you're wanting to customize your Gundam. But that is another thing that I do recommend you getting eventually. You don't have to get it right away when you start putting out Gunpla, but if you do plan on customizing them later on, just little by little, just buying one at a time. So that's another thing I recommend. Alrighty guys, so another thing I do recommend you getting, especially if you do plan on customizing Gunpla, are alligator clips. So these you use for when you start planning to airbrush your Gundams. You clip it and you put each little individual plastic piece on there, and I'll go more in depth on this stuff once I go into the series as you go on, where so you want to start airbrushing, and I'll go more in depth on that in a later video. But pretty much you just clip it on there, and it's to hold it while you airbrush. I do recommend one of these of this sort, so I bought this as well at a local hobby store, was where I bought my clips as well. So when you're airbrushing, you just stick it in the hole and it holds it for you, so you can just, while they air to dry. Another thing you can get instead, and this is probably more cost effective than this, because I think this was like $10, and as you can see it can't really hold much, was I bought this at Walmart. It is a kitty, like a scratch pad type thing, And I've seen on videos where they use these instead too. This is probably what I recommend more. You just stick it in there and you can hold more of them. So that's another thing that a tool that I recommend y'all getting. You don't have to get it right away. Like I said, once you start planning to get customizing gunplay, you can work your way up and just buy all this stuff little by little. Alrighty guys, so that's just a couple of tools that I wanted to go over and stuff that I find for me that I use when I'm booting Gundam. I don't want to overwhelm you because there are other tools such as air compressors and airbrushes, but we'll get more in depth and all that as I start getting more depth in the series and once you start really wanting to customize your gunpla. But honestly, to start out, you really just need a pair of nippers and just some sanding paper if you want to smooth it out. But I will leave links in the description of where I bought in a lot of my stuff at. That way it makes it a little easier. And maybe when you go out and look, you can find them. But I do hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and leave a comment. And I do hope I was able to help you with certain questions or things that you can get in and start building your gunpla. Thank you.